In 2026, China is the most centralized state on Earth. But that operating system wasn't written by the CCP, it was written 2,200 years ago by a man whose own father might have been a merchant and whose life was a series of paranoid Today, we open the case file on Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor himself, the guy who unified China, built the Great Wall, and basically invented the emperor title. This is the wild side of history, the stuff that's been whispered about for over 2,000 years. Some of these tales are the kind everyone loves to gossip about. Others are downright obscure. We're going to unpack the inner world of China's very first emperor, the man who changed everything. Let's start with the most famous rumor of all. Who really was Qin Shi Huang's biological father? Yeah, even for a figure this big, history leaves us scratching our heads. In the official records, it's straightforward. His dad was King Qin Shi Huang, also known as Ying Yiren, the 30th ruler of Qin. But the gossip mills have long insisted his real father was none other than the Chancellor Lu Buwei. The story goes like this. Back when Ying Yiren was a hostage in Zhao, he met the wealthy merchant, Lu Buwei, who had this stunning concubine named Zhao Ji. Ying Yiren fell hard for her, and Lu Buwei, being the shrewd operator, he was supposedly handed her over. But here's the twist of the rumors. Love Zhao Ji was already pregnant with Lu Buwei's child, and he kept that little detail under wraps. So Zhao Ji marries Ying Yiren, gives birth to a son who becomes Ying Zheng, later Qin Shi Huang, and the rest is history. Or is it? How believable is this? Ancient China was obsessed with bloodlines, especially among royals and nobles. Would Lu Buwei really risk everything, his big plan to get Ying Yiren back to Qin, make him keen and climb the social ladder by hiding a pregnancy? There were huge hurdles just getting Ying Yiren home safely, let alone securing the throne or keeping him alive. Why bother concealing something that explosive if the whole scheme might flop anyway? Plus, kings cared a ton about reputation. If Ying Yiren ever found out his gift came preloaded, Lu Buwei would be ben-toast. And once Lu Buwei got to Qin, he bent over backwards to distance himself from Zhao Ji, always avoiding any hint of scandal. These two, Lu Buwei and Ying Yiren, were sharp, big-picture guys. Top-tier IQ and ambition. They wouldn't make a rookie mistake like that. So, how did this rumor even start? 3 main theories float around. First, Lu Buwei's own retainers. These were the scholars and hangers-on that powerful men kept around. When Ying Zheng later stripped Lu Buwei of power and exiled him, they were pissed. Spreading, hey, actually he's the real dad, was their way of sticking it to the system and defending their patron. Second, the old nobility from the 6 conquered states. After Qin wiped them out and unified everything, those displaced aristocrats were bitter, smearing Qin Shi Huang as the illegitimate son of a merchant and a dancing girl. Perfect way to trash his legitimacy. If he's just some bastard kid, why should he or his line rule the world? It makes rebellion feel righteous and popular. Third, and this one's spicy, Empress Lu, the wife of Han founder Liu Bang. After Liu Bang died, she took real control, becoming China's first empress to rule from behind the curtain. But she faced massive pushback, including whispers that her own clan wanted to steal the throne from the Liu family. To shore up her authority, the story goes she claimed descent from Lu Buwei, saying the world was originally Elle. Family property, Liu had just stolen it from the Elle, and that's how the official line in Sima. Qian's records of the grand historian slipped in that Lu Buwei was the father. A bit of retroactive propaganda that stuck. Next up, Qin Shi Huang had 23 sons and 10 daughters on record. Named ones include the eldest Fu Su, then Gao, Zhanglu, and the youngest Tu Hai. But here's the weird part, he's the only emperor in Chinese history who never appointed an empress or even officially enfeoffed a single consort. Nobody outside the palace knew who the mothers of his kids were. Why so abnormal? Rumor has it all traces back to one woman. Ying Zheng was born in Zhao's capital Handan and spent 8 years there, split into 2 chunks, from 0 to 3. Life with his parents was okay. Then dad heads back to Qin, leaving mom and little Ying Zheng as hostile. The rough patch hits from 3 to 8. During the brutal Qin-Zhao War, General Baiki buried 400,000 surrendered Zhao soldiers alive. Every Zhao family lost, man. Hatred for the Qin hostage kid and his mom were off the charts. Imagine a 7-year-old boy in Handan. His father has abandoned him. He is a political hostage in a city that hates his bloodline. This is the future first emperor, being beaten in the streets by local gangs. This is where he meets Afe. In the forensic records of his life, she is the only person who offered him kindness without a price tag. She was his safe zone in a world of assassins. Then comes the rupture. At age 8, he is snatched away to Qin to become a king. No goodbye. No closure. For a child already suffering from abandonment, this was a catastrophic psychological break. He spent the next decade obsessed with finding her not just as a lover, but as a way to reclaim the only version of himself that wasn't a cold, political tool. 5 years later, Dad dies. 13-year-old Ying Zheng becomes Qin King. He still can't forget a Feng girl. He wants to find her, bring her back, and make her empress. Problem: he's king in name only. Lu Bui runs the court. Zhao Ji, now dowager, holds the palace. But real power sits with his adoptive grandmother dowager, Hua Yang, and grandma dowager Xia. No way Hua Yang lets a Zhao girl become queen. Yan Jingzheng has zero say. His dream gets shot down repeatedly. Even at 22, when he comes of age with the capping ceremony, he still can't pick his own wife. His eldest son, Fu Su, is born the next year, but no record of who the queen was. Given the grandmother's influence, especially Hua Yang from Csu, the first wife was likely Csu nobility. Only at 29, in 230 BC, does Ying Zheng finally grab real power dumps. Lu brings in guys like Wei Liao and Li Si. He sends people to find Afangura. In 230 BC, the search ended. Intelligence reports confirmed Afang had died in the very wars his own family started. This was the breaking point. The loss of Afang, coupled with the scandalous betrayal of his mother, Zhao Ji, who was caught in a coup attempt with her lover, created a permanent psychological firewall. He didn't just swear off an empress, he declared war on the very concept of trust. From Tainon, he swears off an empress, bans women from politics, and pours everything into conquering the 6 states. 10 years. No distractions. Wipes them out. Unifiestina. Like they say, no woman holding you back. A man can conquer anything. Once he has the world, though, memories creep back. In 212 BC, he orders the most magnificent palace ever built, gathering the best architecture from everywhere, naming it Afang Palace. The place he dreamed of sharing with her. If finished, it'd dwarf 20 forbidden cities. But she's gone. The past is past. Only the front hall foundation was built before war, and time buried it in dust. Now, a quick detour on those wedding gifts from the 6 states, when Ying Zheng turned 23 and had to marry per Qin ritual. Qin was already the strongest. The others wanted to butter him up. Xie sent a bronze sword that could slice gold and jade, studded with 7 huge dragon eye gems. Han gave a super crossbow shooting 800 paces. Qi sent full, tunneling and siege gear. Wei provided the latest scaling ladders. Cao sent a troop of 64 gorgeous dancing girls whose performances could make ministers forget their duties. And Yan, 248 white horses with elite Liaodong cavalry wielding super heavy razor-sharp forged iron swords. None of it innocent gestures, weapons to flex, beauties to distract. All meant to either intimidate or soften his resolve to conquer them. But joke's on them. Ying Zheng used those gifts to crack their tech secrets. After the wedding, envoy's gone. He takes a Yan iron sword, swings at Qin's sharpest bronze blade, snap. Bronze breaks in 2. Then at armor, big hole. Yan's forging was superior. The 6 states were shifting from bronze to iron, tougher, sharper. Qin lagged because iron mines were scarce there. Richest deposits were north and central. By 230 BC, the Yan state had mastered he-carbon steel forging. While Qin had the best system, Yan had the best chemistry. Qin Shi Huang's realization that his bronze swords were obsolete triggered the world's first industrial crash program to standardize iron production. Yingzheng summons, Lu Buwei demands upgrades. Qin Shi has to outclass everybody. Lu Buwei oversees it diligently. Thanks to Shang Yang's reforms, Qin already had standardized production uniform specs, high quality, mass output. Craftsmen tweak the bronze alloy ratio hard outside, tough inside. That's how Qin made the longest bronze swords in the 7 states, outperforming the others' iron ones, edging into steel territory. Gave Qin soldiers the edge that helped crush everyone. One more shadowy figure. Qin Shi Huang had a half-brother named Cheng Zhao. His story's almost erased because he rebelled during the Zhao campaign and got killed. Why flip? No clear record, but rumors tie it to palace intrigue. When Yingzheng was 3, Dad escaped Zhao with Lu Bui's help, bribed guards with 600 gold. Mom and kid are stuck behind us as hostages. Dad jets back, adopts Madame Huayang as foster mom alliance move. She had no kids. He becomes heir. His birth mom, Dowager Xia, was from Han, so Han faction grows. Meanwhile, Yingzhang's fate in Zhao is uncertain. Under Dowager Xia, Dad marries a Han noblewoman, as Cheng Jia. So, Yingzheng's at least 3 years older. Cheng Zhao's birth makes Ying, Xing, and Zhou. Shikuji awkward. Cheng Zhao looks more legitimate in some eyes. A real rival. Factions split. Dowager Xia pushes Cheng Zhao, Huayang, and Lu Buwei back. Yingzhen. After Dad becomes king, Zhao escorts Mom and Yingzheng home safely, barely, since intel said Siminchen wanted him dead so Cheng Zhao could rise. As eldest, Yingzheng becomes crown prince with Lu Buwei's help. Dad dies 3 years later. Yingzheng ascends. Cheng Zhao was still ambitious. At Qin Shi, backed by Han relatives, he visits Han. Effortlessly gets 50 kilometers of prime land, clearly Dowager Xia faction greasing wheels to build his power base against Yingzheng. Gets titled Lord of Chang. Yingzheng knows the court's really run by 3 women. Huayang Saku faction, Dowager Xia Han, his mom Xia, plus rising Cheng Jia and Zhao Ji's lover Laowei. To seize real power, he has to dismantle them. He notices Cheng Zhao and Laowei are rivals too. Better let them clash. Crab versus snipe. Fisherman wins. In 239 BC, he sent Cheng Jiao to attack Zhao, get him out of the capital, cut his base. Next year, Dowager Xia dies. Han faction leaderless Yingzheng starts purging them. Out in the field, Cheng Jiao hears, knows returning means doom. Rebels and what's now Shaanxi defects to Zhao. Yingzheng then sends Laowei to crush him. Laowei jumps at it, wins big, gets credited for putting down rebellion, especially killing Cheng Jiao. He gets made Marquis of Changxin. In strict Qin law, titles came from real battlefield blood. But Qingjing still needs him to be gone. Laowei has Zhao Ji as shield hard to touch right away. Otsang. To take something, first give. After getting the title of Marquis of Changxin, Laowei got more and more full of himself. He balloons thousands of retainers. One drunken spat with a noble, he yells, eyes bulging, I'm the king's fake father, you dare cross me. The noble runs to palace, spills Laowei's no eunuch, has 2 kids with Dowager, plotting takeover. Yingzheng furious, orders full investigation. Laowei panics. When nothing happens right away, decides to strike first. Yingzheng happens to stay at Qinian Palace in Yongshan. Laowei steals seals, mobilizes guards, attacks to kill him. But Yingzheng had already stationed loyalists, Lord Chengping and Lord Chengwen. They surround and slaughter Laowei's force, behead him and thousands of followers. Clean, justified, nobody, even Zhao Ji, could complain. That September, Yingzheng exterminates Laowei's clan, has Xiaoji's 2 kids beaten to death in bags, exiles her to Yongzheng under house arrest. Court now only, Lu Buwei left. Using the scandals since he introduced Laowei, Yingzheng strips him to. But Lu Buwei had huge merit with the late king. Ministers pleaded, so exiled to Hunan fief. A year later, Lu Buwei, brooding over his contributions, turned to nothing drinks poison. Suicides. With all obstacles cleared, Yingxing finally holds absolute power, sets the machine in motion to wipe out the 6 states and unify. In the year before his death, to 10 BC, 3 freakish celestial ominous events, all tied to his end. First, Mars guarding the heart. Mars called Ying Huo, flickering fire, confusing path stations in the heart constellation. Ancient omen of disaster for the ruler, even fall of dynasty. Han Shu records it happened back in 487 BC. Tusong's Duke Jing. He asked astrologer Ziwei how to avert. Suggestions. Shift calamity to minister or people. No. 2 crops burn fields. No. He takes it on himself, willing to die for forgiveness. Star miraculously shifts 3 degrees. He lives 21 more years. Peacefully, in Qin Shi Huang's late years, it happens again, a line straight. Astrologers urged to execute ministers estais calm, superstitious, sure. But his confidence's mandate of heaven guy overrides. Next year, boom, dies at Chu too. Qin collapses fast. Coincidence, no science. But it nailed his fate, and not the only one that year. Second, a massive meteor falls in what's now Puyang, Hunan. Next day, farmers see inscription. The first emperor dies, and the land divides. Word reaches him. He freaks, investigates, finds nothing. Orders villagers killed. Meteor smashed. Prophecy fulfills next year. Adiasuntur empire fractures. Uprisings everywhere. Wokarbidit. Where'd the pieces go? Still unsolved East Commandery meteor case. Third, same year. Outside Shanyang. Qin Shi Huang on procession. Officials kowtow. Tributes. Galore. En route back, a man with jade token blocks the carriage. Hands it to attendant. Give this to the water god. Before questioning, he declares. The ancestral dragon dies this year. Attendants kill him on spot because the ancestral dragon referred to Qin Shi Huang. Examining the jade, it's the exact token Qin Shi Huang threw into the river 8 years earlier during Southern Tour sacrifice. Back in his hands. 3 omens in 1 year. Qin Shi Huang gets rattled. Divination says only a grand tour can avert disaster. So next year is 5th and finale grand tour. Itakasli, Xizhao Gao, Yong Huai hits the road, meant to dodge fate. Instead, he leaves Xianyang forever, dies midway, never saw it coming. And that's the wild, rumor-filled side of the first emperor. Makes you think what drives a man to build empires, yet stay haunted by a childhood sweetheart and cosmic warnings. History's full of these layers. Thanks for listening. Drop your thoughts below. Which rumor shocks you most? See you next time.